My ex-boyfriend sent my fiancé intimate videos of me and my ex doing things that I refused to do with my fiancé in the past, and since then he's become cold and won't even let me cuddle with him. I met my fiancé Dan, 30, 4 years ago when I, 33, moved to a new city for work. I quite literally ran into him as he was getting coffee and ruined his shirt and jacket. I, mortified, offered to pay for the dry cleaning costs and gave him my number to contact me with the bill. About a week later, he sent me a message really politely asking if this was the lady who had dyed his shirt mocha, and we got to texting about how much the bill was and how he'd wanted to be paid back for it. I'll preface this by saying when I ran into him, he was extremely calm about what had happened and laughed and said not to worry about it, but he'll definitely take my number just in case he wanted to spring for the one-day return. He was so charming about the whole situation that I can't remember if I was red from embarrassment of the situation or of how he was so smooth with talking to me. I don't know why, but it was easy to talk to him. After a few days, he asked me out to get food, and I agreed. I don't know if that was a date, but we both got to know each other, and I ended up getting a huge crush on him and wanted to spend more time with him. After our third time eating together, he said, "I really like spending time with you. Would you like to go on a date this weekend?" I nearly jumped into his arms. I replied, "I was waiting for you to ask," and I could feel the biggest smile on my face. 2 months into dating, I realized we hadn't kissed properly once. He pecked me on the cheek a few times and kissed my forehead, but he had never kissed me on the lips. I brought this up, and he told me that he had never kissed a girl before and that he never had a real girlfriend, and the last one he had was when he was 14, and he said it didn't really count. I asked about her, and he told me she moved because of her dad's job and that he still keeps in touch. I asked him why he never had a girlfriend and that I was surprised about him and never would have expected this. He told me that he asked a girl out when he was 16, and she made fun of him to her friends, and it really messed with his self-confidence and how he viewed himself. During university, he tried asking girls out and tried talking to them, but nothing ever really came of it. He tried online dating, he got matches, but they either ghosted or never started talking. When he turned 24, he basically said F it and he was gonna do whatever he wanted and put getting a relationship on the back burner. I, on the other hand, have had a fair amount of partners. I wanted to communicate this to him, so after we went out, I sat down with him and told him about me and my history with relationships. He was initially taken back a bit and then asked if I was serious about him. I told him, of course I am. Why would I not be? He said that this might cause some insecurities in himself and said he would talk to his closer friends. After the talk he had, he was more secure about this, and we were able to move forward. After a year of us dating, Dan asked if we could explore in the bedroom, and I asked what he meant by that. He asked if we could be more adventurous and add things to our sex life like dirty talk, more BJ on my part. Most of the time when we have sex, he goes down on me, possibly backdoor intimacy, and that he wanted to record us one time to see what it was like. I said I had no interest in exploring our sex lives, and I was happy with how it was. He then asked if I had done any of these things with someone else. I lied and said no. He then hugged me and said, "Okay, I understand, I love you." The truth is that I had done all of these with my ex Steven. Steven and I were together until 6 months before I met Dan. I had found out he had been cheating on me with multiple women. Steven himself wasn't abusive, but he was a stereotypical F-boy. He had no real direction in life, was impulsive, lacked the ability to think for the future, and was immature. But for some reason, he was addicting. Every time he'd message me, I'd respond straight away, and when he asked to do these things and more, I did so willingly. Last Friday, I got a message from my friend Monica saying she was having a house party to celebrate her and her husband buying their first home together and invited me and Dan. Dan has met all of my friends, and they all adore him. They always say how lucky I am to have him as my boyfriend and now fiancé, and I always agree with them. At this party, I saw Steven. I asked Monica why he was here, and she said that we're all friends here. It's not like anything is going to happen. You've met Steven's new girlfriend. Dan hadn't met Steven before, but I had talked about him in passing, not talking about him fully, just that my ex is Steve, and we're in the same friend circle, but we're not really close. When we got to Monica's, we had the tour of the house and then ended up in the kitchen talking with everyone. Monica's husband, Jordan, recently got a promotion, and the guys were talking about their work, and I could see Steven look uncomfortable. He has been in the same job for nearly a decade and hasn't been able to transfer or train for another position. After a while, the guys went into Jordan's den to play some pool, and Steven came back and started to talk to me. He asked what job Dan had and how we met. We talked for a bit and caught up with each other, and then Dan came up and asked if I was ready to go. After saying goodbye, I saw Dan and Steven talking, and they ended up shaking hands, and we left. On Saturday, Dan came into the room and asked if I had said anything to Steven about me or our relationship. I said that I didn't. Then he said, "Well, why would he send me this?" It was a video of me performing oral on Steve very enthusiastically, and a few other videos of me doing sexual acts with him. I tried to talk to him, and he said that he doesn't want to talk to me right now and he will talk to me when he's ready. He then said I should file a police report against Steven for sharing videos against my will. Since then, I've tried to cuddle him, and he's shrugged me off. I tried to talk to him again yesterday, and he asked again if I had filed a report. I told him I didn't want to and that I wanted to talk about it, and he said he wasn't ready yet. I have messaged Steven and my close friends, and they've all kicked him out of the group and have contacted his girlfriend about what he has done. He has not tried to contact me or anyone else as far as I know. I am not interested in filing a report on Steven. I don't know how to bring this up to my fiancé. I am not ashamed of my past, but I am embarrassed that he found out this way. Best comments. You lied to him about the sex acts, and worst, you did it as a way to turn him down and not explore sexual things with him. All that is in his mind now is that he is not good enough for you to do the same things you did with your ex, and worst, you did it enthusiastically, but not with him. He is not good enough for you to try the same things with. I mean, I would understand no S-play or some more extreme stuff, but not even BJ's. I imagine your fiancé is asking himself exactly these questions now and is realizing something is very wrong here. He is feeling very emasculated. He probably thinks that you are not attracted to him at all and you have other reason for staying with him. Current partner feels emasculated, not valued, and very likely a safe backup plan type. And the sex dynamic sounds very selfish on your part, OP. I hope he has the backbone to leave you and find a partner who's excited to be with him. He opened up about exploring sex more, which you know he hasn't had the chance to do. I'm sure it was difficult to even bring up the topic from how you describe him. I would understand more if you had an abusive ex who forced you or degraded you into these acts, but from how you explain it, that wasn't the case. You completely shut down the conversation because you think your sex life is good, but clearly, he wants to try more. What gets me is that he goes down on you every time, but you shut down the idea of you doing that for him. I can't even imagine how seeing that video felt. I think there is a whole Reddit board dedicated to this scenario of ready for a nice guy. I want to add that your ex sending these videos is disgusting and degrading behavior, but you don't even seem to see that. You just want to cuddle and talk, but seem so passive in what he has done. The lack of anger towards him over this should be another red flag for your fiancé. He needs to run. Update number 1, 2 days after the first post. I asked Dan to sit down with me to talk about what happened. I told him that I wanted him to feel safe enough to talk about how he was feeling about what had happened and that I wanted to explain the relationship I had with Steven. I asked why he didn't want to talk sooner, and he said that he was thinking things over and wanted to beat the shit out of Steven, and his friends talked him down and basically said to let it go and focus on filing a report to ensure there were legal repercussions. I started by saying how much I loved him and our relationship and how I don't think him shutting me out is helping either of us. I said I was wrong to lie about my past and that I should have offered that information when he asked, with an explanation as to why I didn't want to do such acts with him. He then asked why I didn't just tell him this when he asked to explore more in the bedroom. I replied that I thought it would be better, given your insecurities about my experience and your past. I feel like it would have caused resentment on your part because I had done these things before, but not with you. You have to understand I did these things when I was younger and wanted validation. He said he would have understood that, and if I didn't enjoy it, I should have just said so. I said it wouldn't have ended like that and brought up what happened when we first got together, and I told him about my dating history. He then replied with, I took 2 days to talk to my close friends about the relationship, and it wasn't the fact you had past partners which caused an issue. It's normal for people to have had exes. I was the outlier for being a virgin. My insecurity came from the fact you said for the past 8 months you were only looking for casual relationships, and I didn't want that. I wanted an actual relationship. The fact you lied about what you were like in bed makes me feel like shit. It also makes me question how honest you were with me about other things in the relationship. I hugged him and told him I was willing to explore with him and that I realized how much pain I had caused him, and he said he didn't want to. How it is now, us exploring isn't out of a genuine desire from you. It's the fact you got caught out in a lie and are trying to save face. I started crying and said how sorry I was to F all of this up and that I'd be happy to go down on him more and that I do find him attractive. I went on to say that when he asked for exploration, I was taken aback a bit. I saw our love as wholesome and pure, and by adding these types of sex acts, I thought he'd think less of me. He held me tighter and said, why would I do that? Do you know how happy I would have been if I had you doing this stuff with me? I asked him to go to couples counseling with me and that I'd pay for it. He agreed under one condition, that I give back his ring, and we were no longer engaged. I don't think I've ever felt so hurt. He said he still loves me, but this hiccup has seriously shaken his trust in me, and that he thinks that us being engaged adds a level of pressure to both of us. And going back to just boyfriend/girlfriend will help alleviate some of the pressure from outside and allow us to focus on healing rather than dealing with everyone asking us when the wedding is and how married life is going to be like. I told my parents that we were no longer engaged and said that we've hit a few road bumps and want to focus on us. They said they were sorry to hear about my relationship troubles and that they are always there for both of us and are happy to talk to us if anything gets heated. They also said they've been together and happy for 23 years, so they might know a thing or two. I will be going to the police station tomorrow with Dan, and we will be filing a report against Steven for revenge porn. Dan has a few friends-in-law, and one of them, who is a woman, has significant experience in SA and has dealt with these situations before. She is a close friend of Dan, and I've been able to trust her with sensitive information before, so I feel safe trusting her with this information. If she cannot represent me, she said she would put me in contact with a few of her colleagues to make sure Steven gets what he deserves. I'm going to start individual counseling to understand why I did those acts with Steven and why I froze up and lied when Dan asked me to do the same. I truly love him and want to be able to satisfy him and live out both of our fantasies. I asked him again if he was sure on not doing those things right now, and he said if he went through with it, he'd feel like another Steven, and once I'm ready, he'd love to explore with me. I messaged Monica and asked why Steven was invited to the party, and she said that ever since I broke up with him, she's invited both to everything and that it hasn't been an issue before. She then asked if Steven had tried to contact me, and that he's been dumped by his girlfriend, and she ended up breaking a bunch of his stuff in the argument they had. She apologized about all this, and she thought everyone got along well at the party and didn't know what set Steven off and that I don't have to worry about him being around anymore. I asked Dan what he and Steve talked about at the party, and he said they talked about work. Dan works in fintech and makes good money, and Steven had an interest in finance, and they were talking about the qualifications Steven would need to get a job in the field. Dan offered his number and said he could help him with some of the qualifications and get him connected with a few people. This infuriated me even more. Dan isn't a bad person, and I knew he would never do anything to belittle or hurt anyone. The fact Steven did this after Dan offered to help him has confirmed that he really is a piece of shit, and he has, hopefully, what's coming to him with the lawsuit. It's going to be a long road, but Dan and I have our first counseling session on Monday, and I hope we are able to move past this and get married someday. Best comments. Reading your post and based on how you describe your discussion with Dan, you really should focus on your relationship with sex as how it affects your self-worth and your actual feelings towards it. Dan clearly views sex as an extension of intimacy and respects your sexuality, but I don't think you fully appreciate or understand what that means and how you view sex. You repeatedly offer him sex acts to try and smooth things over. Not only is that not the issue is you projected your low self-worth onto him and created a very damaging situation for both yourself and him because of it, but now by trying to treat him exactly like you did with Steven, you are resurrecting his original concerns by trying to use sex to keep him interested in you rather than responding to his and your emotions. I hope things go well for you both, but your relationship likely won't recover until you really dive deep on this. You put it perfectly. The update somehow makes me think this is even worse than the original post for these same exact reasons. Offering sexual acts to compensate for the lies and manipulation that she did to her own fiancé is just gross.